There will be remembrances and events tomorrow as the U.S. marks 1 year since the attack on the Capitol. Former President Trump has canceled his rally that was scheduled for tomorrow, and 3 more law enforcement officers who defended the Capitol from the violent mob are suing Trump over his words and actions leading up to that day. Catherine Herridge sat down with a veteran police officer who is demanding accountability.
At the west entrance, as rioters scaled scaffolding set up for the inauguration, Capitol Police Sergeant Akolina Gonell was beaten and his spirit nearly broken.
Are you suffering?
Yes. I mean, from every day for me, it's been a January 6th.
On Twitter, the 16-year veteran of the Capitol Police Force documented his injuries to dispel claims that minimize last year's violence. Gonell told us he still can't shake the trauma.
The way I sleep, from the way I put my shirt on, the way I take a shower, the physical therapy twice a week, the mental health therapy once a week.
Gonell, who testified to Congress earlier this year, is now doing administrative work rather than patrols.
It's been hard, emotionally, physically, and financially as well, too.
The Select Committee investigating the attack on the Capitol now wants to hear from Fox News host Sean Hannity about his text messages with the White House before the riots. On December 31st, Hannity texted then White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows, "I do not see January 6 happening the way he is being told." 5 days later, to an unknown recipient, Hannity wrote, "I'm very worried about the next 48 hours. And on January 10th, to Meadows and Ohio Congressman Jim Jordan, "Guys, we have a clear path to land the plane in 9 days. He can't mention the election again." Hannity's lawyer told CBS News they are reviewing the committee's request. Now, nearly a year after about 140 police officers were assaulted, some with lethal weapons, Gonell says action needs to be taken to prevent this from happening again.
If we don't put a deterrent on some of these and hold people accountable for what they did, this could be a recurring thing every 4 years.
Catherine Herridge is now here to discuss. You know, Catherine, what you really get from that officer that you spoke to is the lasting trauma of that experience. Mm-hmm. And I know after the attack, a number of officers kind of went on leave to deal with their physical issues, but also their mental issues. And now we've learned that quite a few officers have left the force completely. Mm-hmm. What resources, if any, have been given to these officers experiencing trauma from defending the Capitol on January 6th? Are they getting the support they need?
Well, in the case of the sergeant that we spoke with, Anne Marie, he says he's getting physical therapy, he's getting mental health therapy, he's had a number of surgeries, but he says the biggest block is coming in every day and having that almost flashback to January 6th. He told us that he was recently on the west side of the Capitol, not far from where I'm standing right now, and they were doing some construction work, and he heard them bang against some of the scaffolding and drop some of their equipment. And all of those sounds were like triggers for him. It brought back that day, and he still goes back and forth over whether he wants to stay with the force or leave the force altogether. But he says he's got to stay for now because he needs that medical insurance and he needs this continued counseling, Anne-Marie.
Wow. So let's talk about these 3 law enforcement officers who have filed a lawsuit against President Trump for his words and actions leading up to January 6th. I know there are 7 other officers that did the same. I don't know if these 3 are joining those 7, but can you give us a little more information about that?
Well, big picture, what these officers are alleging is that there was a lack of action by former President Trump on January 6th, this 3-hour period from the time the riots began just before 1 p.m. as the rioters pushed through the barriers not far from where we're situated right now and then overran the Capitol. And yet it took that 3-hour period for former President Trump to come out and tell people to go home. So they're going to that 180-minute window, and they also want to get to his state of mind on that day. And what we heard from the sergeant in our interview is that he was looking at his watch that afternoon, asking himself, when is help going to come? The Metropolitan Police Department here in Washington came fairly quickly, but they need reinforcements, and they just did not get that in a timely fashion.
Yeah. So let's talk about this latest information about Sean Hannity. Why does the House committee investigating the January 6th attack want to speak to Sean Hannity about his correspondence with Donald Trump and with his former chief of staff, Mark Meadows? And why did the panel ask him to voluntarily submit information rather than actually subpoenaing him?
Well, just from a legal perspective, it's typically the first step, Anne Marie, to ask for someone's voluntary cooperation before you go through that process to subpoena their appearance as well as their records. Now, let's talk about those text messages. Some of them were released by the Select Committee, so we don't have all of them right now to know the full context. But the messages released show a series of communications leading up to January 6th and seem to indicate that Hannity was very concerned about what the president was being told and also his state of mind about January 6th, almost intimating that he was expecting something to happen, and Hannity thought he was being misled or giving bad legal advice about what may have been possible that day. And of course, that was the certification of the Electoral College. So the committee is calling Sean Hannity a fact witness. That appears very strategic. They're saying they want to make it very narrow. They want to carve out what happened in his communications with the White House. They don't want to get into his broadcasting and his radio show and his TV show because they understand that he could then argue that that's a First Amendment issue, Anne Marie.
So in the year that has passed, a lot has changed for the Capitol Police Force. We talked about this yesterday. The force is much smaller because officers left, and it's been difficult to train reinforcements, partially because of the COVID pandemic. There is also a new police chief, and that chief is scheduled to speak at a hearing later on this morning before the Senate's Rules and Administration Committee. What do we expect to hear from him?
What we expect to hear from Chief Manger is that there were serious and significant deficiencies in the Capitol Police Force on January 6th. We're talking about staffing, training, operational planning for an event and a threat that we saw a year ago. What he's going to tell the committee in his prepared testimony is that they have either addressed or implemented about 90 of over 100 recommendations for the force. But based on our interview with the sergeant, he said to us that one of the most important things was accountability for January 6th. And he told us that he doesn't think the officers have seen that yet. They're starting to become almost dispirited in their view with the lack of progress in the investigation. And he said in some cases they've been, disappointed doesn't really capture, but they felt that the sentences that had been levied in these cases do not adequately represent the violence that they faced that day. So the longer we get from January 6th, the sergeant said they're starting to lose faith that they're going to see the kind of accountability that they think is necessary to deter something like this in the future. And that kind of accountability, he said, would go a long way to improving morale and also recruiting other officers to the force.
Of course, that makes an incredible amount of sense. If you want to attract the best, the bravest, the most committed, you have to create an environment where they are happy and proud and feel supported when they go to work. These are some of the best people that we have, and it's heartbreaking to hear that after an entire year, they are still feeling unsupported by the powers that be. Catherine, as usual, great reporting, really great talking to you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.